And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, my name is Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Strange Remnants expansion for Eldritch Horror. Now, I put off reviewing this one for a while because, well, there's so much involved in Eldritch Horror that adding in these expansions, in fact, I haven't even played the two big expansions yet. This is the second of the three small expansions that are currently out there. And I kind of like the small expansions a lot because they add more stuff without adding too many new mechanisms. This one adds a few new mechanisms, but they're pretty simple. And in fact, this is incredibly essential. Well, you'll see in a second. But I really like this one. There's more stuff in this one than there was in the first small expansion. So let's take a look at what's inside the box. So the game comes with more stuff. We have more monsters and more cards to shuffle in each of the deck. There's some more conditions. I'm always happy to get some more conditions because then you're never quite sure what Det or Dark Pact does. I actually really like the Dark Pact in this one because there's a chance everyone else will get that Dark Pact also. So that's more stuff, and it's always good to have more stuff. There are some new conditions that are in this set. We have Agreement, we have Righteous, and we have Head Injury. I mean, because why not? We already have Leg Injury and Back Injury. And each of these three conditions can be gotten in various ways. Here you can spend 2 clues to get rid of this card, this deal. And then there's a chance to pay your dues and then you flip the card. So for example, here you have a broken deal and you're going to lose health and sanity. Agreement is pretty close to Det, but basically you're going to be able to take these agreements to get good things later on. Righteous here, when you do focus or rest, you'll get a focus or recover a sanity, which is pretty cool. And Head Injury, you can't recover sanity when you do a rest, so you're trying to get rid of this card. Now you mentioned Focus. Well, there's some new tokens in this game called Focus. This is a new action you can take, and this is probably the best thing about this set. It's a new action that any investigator can take. You can spend an action to get a focus token, and you can always spend these to re-roll a die when you're doing a test. And there's no limit to the number that you can spend. This is a huge deal because sometimes you have an action, you don't know what to do with it. Now you have something you can do with that action. It's focus, and that focus can save your butt sometimes on a very important test. So focus and some new statuses. We also have some new people. We have Tony Morgan, Marie, Skids, and Zoe. Now, these new characters, and let's try to show all 4 of them here. You know, more characters is always a good thing. One of the things I want to talk about Zoe is if you have fewer than 2 task assets, you gain a task unique asset. And these are different tasks that you have, and these are kind of like exploration things that you can do. And for me, I really like having her because having these different tasks to do is pretty neat. Although it is a little odd that that's mixed with her thing of the chef. But anyhow, this guy here can spend 2 focus to gain a clue for each focus spent, which is pretty cool. So he's a person who uses focus. Then we have the bad guy who is Syzygy, or I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't care if I'm pronouncing it wrong because he's not going to get me. Anyway, he comes with a whole pile of cards, and he will bring into play a new deck of cards, the Mystic Runes. That's one of 2 ways that this Mystic Runes comes into play. And this is very similar to the Adventurers deck, except that they go to different things. You know, there's one for Easter Island, there's one for the Great Wall of China. And so there are different places. There's one for Stonehenge. And so it's another deck that he will bring into play. Speaking of bringing things into play, this game comes with prologue cards. These prologue cards are new cards that you can pick one to start at the beginning of the game. One of them will bring this deck into play. That's another way it can come into play. But this is kind of just something that can happen before. So this is like an addition to the monster, the big, great old one that you're going to fight. You also have prologue cards. So like here's the Coming Storm. You have 2 different effects that will come into play. And then each person gets 2 effects of their choice. You can gain a clue and a focus. You can improve a skill of your choice. That sounds great. The problem is you have to resolve 3 effects at the beginning of the thing. So each of these are kind of a nice way to add some more variety to the game. Other than that, there's some new spells, Astral Travel, Azure Flame. I should mention that Syzygy is one of the more straightforward bad guys to fight. When the Doom gets a 0, investigators lose the game, and there's a chance his card will be flipped, and then you have a portal that you need to seal and close. I find him or her, or whatever. I find them one of the more straightforward people to deal with. So that's what's in this expansion. That is Strange Remnants. Again, the focus alone is really cool. The bad guy is good. I mean, there's one new bad guy. And honestly, I don't need a whole ton of these guys because I can fight the same guy multiple games. I like the prologues. I like the new, I like more stuff. So more weapons. Yay! I mean, let's take a look at the different weapons that are included in this one. We got Expedition Map, Medical Journal, Mysterious Tome, Tome of Secrets, Ritual Dagger, Holy Spear. That's +4 during combat encounters. That's pretty cool. Handcuffs. I like that. Lavish Feast. When you gain this card, immediately recover 2 health and 2 sanity. That's pretty cool. And I like these sort of things. Gruesome Talisman. So having more of that, having more adventures with this and the first small expansion and the second small one, which I'll talk about in another video, I have so many different adventures now that very few ever do I come across the same thing twice, and definitely not in the same game, and I really like that. So this is cool. This is also an easier one, I think, for new people to get into, because this Elder Ancient one is not a difficult... They're hard, okay? They're always hard. They're not as hard as some of them. They're not as hard as Cthulhu, for example. But it's fairly straightforward, and I like that. So this is definitely a must-buy if you like Eldritch Horror. That's Strange Remnants. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.